I'd like to discuss what I call the enthusiasm problem. To me, it's a very slept on perspective when talking about modern mainstream entertainment. If the entertainment industry, especially nerd culture stuff, is to return to form,
hello there,
it has to resolve this problem. I personally don't think they can do this, and this is why I believe we are at the tail end of the mega corporate domination of entertainment. It's going to eventually become a little more niche, and there's nothing wrong with that. As an example, Star Wars put a lot of resources and hope in the Ahsoka series. Once upon a time, Star Wars could just crap out millions of dollars and it's easy viewership. That's just not the case anymore. According to Nielsen, they've seen their streaming ratings go down.
You're right about one thing, Captain.
And they weren't that good comparatively speaking. Some people would say, well, the series is okay. It's not that bad. Others will dispute that, but that's not the point. It doesn't matter how critics view it. I'm a Star Wars normie, but this problem isn't unique to Star Wars. Marvel and DC, for example, are running into the exact same problem. There is rarely any genuine enthusiasm for their project by their core base. To me, there's a difference between a shield and a hardcore fan. But the difference isn't even centered around liking everything that the company or property produces. The difference is in how genuine that enthusiasm is. A shield is largely faking it. Some have a vested interest in that property maintaining its prominence, so they present it in a better spot than it actually is, even if it means lying. A hardcore fan is someone that is very real in their enthusiasm. Believe it or not, hardcore fans once drew the engagement of all of these properties, even getting the normies involved. But the number of hardcore fans has dwindled over the years. This doesn't mean that there aren't people that actually like some of this mainstream material. That's not what I'm saying. Of course that exists. What I'm saying is that you have more people just consuming it. It's more of a chore rather than being stoked for it. Had it not had that recognizable brand tied to it, nobody would give it the time of day. Why this is the case? Well, people will have their own thoughts, but what I believe happened is that companies placed normie appeal over just making faithful material. They used to make material for their audience and the normies would get in on it when it was convenient. Now they are specifically targeting this mass audience, and it just makes for uninspired, mundane material. This can also be seen in their hiring practices for these gigs. They also seem to believe that quantity is better than quality. Now it's produce the most things that they possibly can and stick that Marvel or Star Wars brand as opposed to creating the best possible thing. So lifers have checked out. Or again, they get in on it as a chore. They just want to be in the know. They're just going through the motions. Now, in a lot of cases, normies have also jumped ship, which has historically happened in waves. The comic book industry is in a very similar spot. Despite the economic reality, people have lied to themselves and the public by saying the American comic book industry is doing great. You were all gaslit. Unit sales have been down in comparison to previous decades. They tried to use the increase of price to say there's more money now in comics than ever before, but they ignored the inflation aspect. I was one of those poor delusional fools that spent hundreds of dollars at the comic book shop. I was buying that stuff to be in the know. It had been a very long time since I made that trip, just excited to see what was actually happening in the comic. Eventually, obviously, I stopped altogether. Other people have felt the same way. Perhaps this is why none of the distributors now make their numbers public. There's such a disconnect between the reader or the viewer and the people that's calling the shots with those entertainment assets. It's like they don't even know what their audience actually wants. And that's because they don't have their ear to the streets. They're making this material to impress their peers. Think about it. You know I'm right. It has been a very long time since you felt just thrilled to go watch the next movie or buy the next comic book. The MCU is seeing that decline right now. The idiot shields and access media actually think of you as toxic in the event that you voice your opinion on a given product that they don't like. It shows how oblivious they are. That used to be a core tenet of what this nerd culture stuff was about. The people that was actually into that material. I'm not talking about the haters. It used to be about us arguing over dumb shit. The people that was into it. It was who was stronger than who. It was this made or did make sense. You know why? Because if you felt that the product was even bad, there was still enthusiasm for the brand or that product. Now we're arguing if this is even the character at all and having to discuss social bullcrap because they're beating the audience over the head with it, or worse, that's what they led with in the promotion of that product. I don't think they'll ever return to form because the mega corporate setup doesn't really allow it. On top of that, new properties are popping up with a direct line of sight with their audience, and we are on the brink of a creative renaissance. One that has true independence, and now there's no reason to sell it off to some mega corporation because there's no ceiling anymore. The means have been made more affordable and they've been decentralized. The internet alone has completely changed the game. So now a lot of us are thinking less, man, I really miss that old Marvel or DC, and more, let's just get to creating and find the next world to get lost in. A world where fandoms are built again and those friendships, they'll last for decades. They're gonna form. Yeah, it'll look a little different, but the feeling that you get will be similar. Actual enthusiasm from actual fans. Up next for the Rippaverse this fall is Alpha Core #1, written by one of the most prolific writers of all time, Chuck Dixon. Penciled by the legendary Joe Bennett. You're not going to want to miss this book. Visit Rippaverse.com to stay up to date and grab ISOM #1 to get caught up on the first appearance of Alpha Core.